Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Northern Maple. Today, we're diving into Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act, a piece of legislation sparking heated debate across our nation. But before we dissect this bill, we need to clarify a critical term: hate speech. It's not bullying, and words matter. The Canadian government has muddied language for far too long, so let's set the record straight using the Canadian Criminal Code. Under sections 318 and 319, hate speech involves advocating genocide, publicly inciting hatred, or willfully promoting hatred against an identifiable group defined by characteristics like race, religion, ethnic origin, age, just to name a few. These acts target public communications that foster detestation or vilification, with penalties of up to 5 years for advocating genocide and 2 years for inciting or promoting hatred. Bullying, by contrast, isn't explicitly defined in the criminal code, but may fall under provisions like criminal harassment or uttering threats, which focus on individual-targeted, non-ideological harm. Hate speech is much more severe. It seeks to dehumanize entire groups, threatening social cohesion and fueling systemic discrimination. As Canadians, we value respect for individuals, and our laws reflect that commitment. With this foundation, let's evaluate B63 using our 5 criteria. Criterion 1, clear problem identification and evidence. Does the bill address a specific, well-defined problem supported by credible evidence? Bill C-63 targets online harm, including child victimization, hate speech, and incitement to violence. It strengthens reporting of child sexual exploitation material and introduces a new hate crime offense. These are pressing issues. Reports from the Canadian Centre for Child Protection show rising online child exploitation, and public concern about hate speech surged after the 2019 mosque shootings. However, the bill itself lacks specific data or consultation details. While government consultations from 2021 and 2023 suggest public demand, the absence of clear evidence in the text weakens its case, so the verdict is only partially met. Criterion 2, alignment with Canadian values. Does the bill uphold public interests and core principles like equality, fairness, and charter-protected rights? Bill C-63 aims to protect vulnerable groups like children and minorities by creating a digital safety commission and ombudsperson to ensure accountability. Its focus on hate speech aligns with equality under Section 15 of the Charter. However, concerns arise with the bill's broad definition of harmful content on page 15 and amendments to the Canadian Human Rights Act on page 87, which risk infringing freedom of expression under Charter Section 2B. While page 72 clarifies that offensive speech isn't inherently hate speech, vague terms could suppress lawful expression. Data access rules on page 34 also raise privacy concerns under Section 8 with unclear safeguards. Penalties up to 6% of a platform's global revenue, or $20 million, and compensation up to $20,000 could disproportionately burden smaller platforms or invite frivolous complaints. Verdict: failed, due to conflicts with charter rights and enforcement fairness. On to Criterion 3, practicality of solutions. Are the bill's solutions feasible, effective, and free from undue burdens or unintended consequences? The bill mandates social media platforms to mitigate harmful content, submit safety plans, and label automated posts. It establishes oversight bodies and strengthens laws on hate crimes and child exploitation reporting. These measures already leverage existing systems, making them practical. Requiring content removal within 24 hours for child exploitation material could significantly reduce harm. Absolutely. However, enforcing these rules across diverse platforms, especially smaller ones, may strain resources, and the bill lacks clarity on funding or technical support. The vague definition of harmful content risks over censorship, threatening free speech. High penalties could also harm smaller platforms, reducing market competition. The new hate crime offense hinges on consistent judicial application, which isn't guaranteed. So the verdict failed due to unintended consequences like censorship and disproportionate impacts on small businesses. Off to criterion 4, respect for individual freedoms. Does the bill use the least intrusive means to achieve its goals, respecting freedoms and avoiding government overreach? So Bill C-63's approach, imposing operator duties, data access orders, and hate speech regulations, is highly intrusive, requiring content removal within 24 hours and imposing steep penalties prioritizes speed over nuanced review, limiting freedom of expression under Charter Section 2B. Data preservation and broad inspection powers threaten privacy under Section 8. Especially without robust judicial oversight, which isn't guaranteed. Less intrusive alternatives like voluntary industry code or targeted criminal law amendments could address harms without sweeping regulation. The Digital Safety Commission centralizes authority, risking overreach, and operator safeguards don't offset the bill's broad scope. So you guessed it, verdict 5 failed due to its impact on protected freedoms and potential for excessive government control. Something Carney, by the way, has publicly advocated against. On to criterion 5, inclusive development and public support. Was the bill developed through broad, inclusive consultation, and does it have sufficient public backing? The document itself doesn't detail consultations, but external sources indicate government engagement with citizens, tech companies, and advocacy groups from 2021 to 2023, as noted in the Canadian Heritage Reports. Public concern about online harm is evident, particularly after high-profile incidents. However, ex post from 2024 revealed divided opinions, with civil liberty groups raising censorship concerns, which are absolutely valid. Without clear consultation details in the bill, inclusivity and broad support remain unverified. So verdict, partially met due to likely consultation but mixed public reviews. Bill C-63 tackles serious online harms but stumbles in its execution. It partially meets criterion. It identifies problems, does make reference to a few consultations, but our charter rights are conflicted. It risks over government overreach, and it's incredibly intrusive. Public support is mixed, and consultation details are unclear. The bill defines hate as an emotion involving detestation or vilification, stronger than disdain or dislike, but its vague terms could silence truthful criticism. And speaking of criticism, let's address the elephant in the room, Prime Minister Carney. The bill's definition of vilification, saying or writing unpleasant things to cause a negative opinion, could label factual critics of leadership like myself as hate speech. I don't hate Carney as an individual. I frequently pray I'm wrong about his leadership and that Canada prospers under his leadership. It's the best possible outcome, but the facts paint a troubling picture. As governor of the Bank of Canada and England, he supported policies that widened the wealth gap and favored elites. As Prime Minister, he's misrepresented Canada internationally, lost billions in energy contracts, increased national debt, and ignored the will of the House of Commons, a body elected to represent Canadians. If this bill passes, sharing these truths could be deemed vilification, stifling free speech. So I asked Liberal Party supporters, should we be allowed to criticize our leaders with facts? Should we speak out against government actions? Because the last I checked, open debate is a cornerstone of democracy. This bill raises so many red flags. It contradicts Canadian case law, which sets legal precedents. During the English debate, Carney claimed criminals, like murderers, deserve charter protections. Yet this bill silences hate speech more harshly than violent crimes. He's criticized government dependency, yet the bill creates new bureaucratic roles, expanding government. He champions economic growth, but the bill's penalties could cripple small businesses, the backbone of our economy. These contradictions, found by an average Canadian like myself, exposes flaws in a technocratic-driven bill. Perhaps the people, not the globalist experts, know what's best for the country. That's it for today's evaluation. Join me on Tuesday as we continue our deep dive into BC 63, Bill C-63, exploring these discrepancies and a little bit more. Take care, everyone. Bye.